Hello, everyone. How are we doing tonight? It is a reflex to say this, but I was not supposed to do a PA review today, and last second I decided that I would be. So we do have an empty house on the live. So this is just me and you guys on YouTube. For now, we'll see if anyone joins, but still, these reviews are a way for me to remain consistent as well. So whether there's an audience or not, I do not mind. I will be doing them anyways. From a higher time frame perspective, we can see some clear divergence, right? With ES reaching previous day high, while NASDAQ failed to reach that level, but still, no, actually, that's the new day. That's the current open, sorry. So both assets were bullish for the day, right? After this large rejection wick with the SMT, as we discussed in yesterday's review, we saw some pretty nice bullish action. So definitely yesterday evening, I was going to be looking for bullish action going into the next day. We confirm that with our daily structure. We can see a lot of differing ideas, but the main one being we expanded lower, we manipulated lower, and that was confirmed through SMT. And just as I said yesterday, whenever I'm looking at something like this, right, this kind of framework, I'm looking for the low to be formed during Asia or London. And this was right in the middle of it. So definitely a perfect framework in that regard for a bullish day. Now, of course, if we look at this, we notice that we almost returned to that, to the current day's low and had a very big move lower. But what I traded personally was that initial run higher in the morning. And we also had the opportunity for a run higher in the PM session. We're also going to discuss shorts because there were very good frameworks there as well. We had 10 a.m. news this morning. If I am not mistaken, let me just confirm. I'm pretty sure there was 10 a.m. news. I will just confirm so that I can at least know what the news was. Yes, exactly. So JOLTS, job openings, that was our news for the morning. So we'll be looking at potential setups, potential frameworks after 10 a.m. The only way we could potentially trade before said 10 a.m. is if we have a Judah swing with SMT at the open, which we did initially have, right? If we look right here, I'll use my crossbar. We'll see that we had very clear SMT right at the open with a very nice move lower. So that is a perfect framework to build a long idea. But we did not form a breaker until much later here on this bar. And at this point, we had already consolidated at this low, which made this idea a lot worse. And if we look, actually, this SMT by then was actually invalidated, right? So there no longer was SMT at these lows. Of course, there was SMT later, but past that entry, which made this setup not a valid long setup. Nonetheless, you would be waiting for the 10 a.m. open. Right at the news time, we had a slight move lower, which did lead to some SMT right here. Let me just mark it out correctly. So we had some SMT with that important low we're talking about right there at 949. SMT at the news, little Judah swing higher, and then a very, very clear expansion higher. This just confirms the potential for our long bias. Just to keep our charts a little cleaner, we'll only look at bullish breakers for now. And even more, we can say, hey, we had 10 a.m. news. I'm only going to be interested in breakers that formed after that. And as we can see, our first available entry was a pretty clear entry right here on this level. And we had a 3 PD array stop loss with the fair value gap, the inverse fair value gap, and the order block, which brought your stop down here. Now, of course, if I'm looking to trade this, current daily high is a very important level for me where I would have liked to take profit. But as we'll notice, current daily high at this point was already taken. And then that new high right here formed an additional breaker. This is not an area where I will be looking to take profit or even break even. I'm 4 minutes in the trade. I don't know what's going on yet. I can't go super early and take this trade. But there was a lot of counter SMT as well, right? There was a lot of SMT between NASDAQ and AS during the early morning session. Whenever we don't have a clear target like this, what am I going to be doing? Well, in this case, I had some clearer objectives by looking to target previous day's high. So we'll see. I believe it was since we had the open right here. So this right here is previous day's high. Very clear objective. A lot of low resistance swings before that. And of course, all the overnight movement already cleared a part of them. But we also had this swing and previous day high right here. I'm going to mark it out. Just mark it out. Previous day high in green. And let's just do top right. So right here, very clear objective at previous day high. And this is also where, if we bring in Tuesday's candle, where is the open right here? 1818. So right here, I believe. ES failed to reach that. So as I was saying earlier in this price action review, right? We had a SMT at previous day high. Now, of course, on the daily chart, it's quite hard to notice, actually, because they combine the trading from the bank holiday on Monday and the whole day of Tuesday into one single candle. Now, this is not what I like to look at. I do regard this as previous day high, right? Looking specifically at Tuesday's range in relation to Wednesday's price action. If we go back down to 1 minute, now that we have a clear objective, we have to check, does it offer enough risk to reward? It does. It only needs to be above 1.7 R. Now, in this case, would I have looked to partial anywhere else? No. But what rule do I have that I keep mentioning, I guess, in these last few weeks with a lot of summer consolidation? Well, whatever consolidates right at my entry, so for example, goes up and goes right back down and goes right back up, this is consolidation. Once it goes back up and closes above, right, I see a move above, I'm going to go break even. So right after we see here opening range high being taken and more specifically close through, so on this 1034 candle, my stops went right away to break even. And let's just be a little bit precise right here at 1034. This is my break even mark. And as you can see, didn't have to wait much longer for price to reach your target. Would have been very simple trade in this regard. Definitely not the biggest trade you could have had, but a very simple, successful trade. Now, after previous day high is taken, and as we explained, we have SMT with ES since that level was not taken on ES. And moreover, we form SMT at the highs right here, right? Right at the high that formed this breaker, we also have SMT. Also, little timing perspective, 1050 to 1110. What is the purpose of this time period? This 20-minute time period. Spool against profitable AM traders. What are the profitable AM traders? Long. Its job is either going to be to make a retracement or to even fully reverse if we are bearish. Now, as I was bullish, I would have only regarded this move lower as a retracement. As you can see, it was a little more than that. It was indeed a retracement, but definitely a very large retracement in this sense. We did go higher again, just a consolidation day. It led to quite a sizable move. As we can see, our first available entry here came using this inverse fair value gap. Of course, if you did not use volume imbalances, that entry was still valid, same entry, but it came a little earlier. I personally like to use volume imbalances in all cases like these, so your entry would be a tad bit later. I did just want to mention it. Now, through PDRA stop loss rule here, you have this inversion fair value gap. This has, let me actually put it on the right bar, but this has yet to be a fair value gap. So then you have the swing high here related to this order block and the next order block, which is your invalidation point of your breaker. So it is your final area anyways. Now, of course, my target here would be pretty clear with opening range high being taken and having opening range low remain open on both assets, right? It is going to be opening range low. But am I going to be holding this trade until 6R without taking profits? Never. And how do I define these profits? The same way I always have and always will. 5-minute chart, I'm going to utilize the range of my framework, the range I'm looking to reverse, which is this entire range, and I'm going to look for the first discount inefficiency, which in this case is this previously mitigated, but I don't care, order block. Also, instead of using this previously mitigated order block, you could actually use the swing point, which is just next to it, kind of like whenever I have a fair value gap, for example, and a swing point forms in that fair value gap. For example, if this was a swing point, I'm never going to target the high of the fair value gap. I'm going to target the swing point inside the fair value gap, because I understand that if we are reaching for that fair value gap, we are going to be targeting that swing point, at least with SMT. So in this case, your actual partial would be just a tad bit lower. Doesn't really lead to more return in a sizable manner, I guess I should say. But as you can see, very, very great return at your partial. Definitely way bigger than the morning trade, right? Doesn't mean that it was a better trade, but in terms of results, in terms of return, definitely was more enticing, right? 3R at your partial, and then, of course, gladly holding all the way. You did have a lot of time of consolidation here. You would have had to wait all the way to the PM session, but once we got there, you would have had a very nice 6R on that short. Now, you might ask me, would you have taken this PM trade? Well, no, not at all. Sorry, I just noticed that the lunch session was not showing up on ES, but no, not at all, because I have no reason to look for a short here. Whenever I'm trading the PM session, I trade lunch trades, lunch frameworks, or I'll use 2 PM power of 3, or even better, after opening range low is taken. Do you have a high probability framework to go long? Lunch high, lunch low. I have a lunch raid. Moreover, we get the confirmation from the 2 PM power of 3 opening low. If we are to see a bullish 4-hour candle close off the day, this price action will form the bottom wick of the bullish candle. For example, if we look at this candle, right, the bottom wick, this is where I want to be buying my positions in this 4-hour time period. So very high probability trades there. Now, overall, we can mark out every single SMT. There is a lot of SMT at these lows, right? In cases like these, I like to just stick to what I know, which is what the indicator tells me. And as you can see, our first available entry here. So we did have bullish breakers that were formed previously, but none of them offered entry possibilities, right? What do I need for an entry possibility? A unicorn. I need an overlapping fair value gap or inversion fair value gap that is of the same direction. And I had no bullish arrays here to enter right up until this one that gave you an entry at 244 with your stop being fair value gap. You do have an inversion fair value gap to the left and then fair value gap below. So we're going to place our stop at the low of the fair value gap candle. Now you can tell me, hey, I didn't use this fair value gap right here. And of course, I'm not drawing it with any precision. I actually use the inversion fair value gap to the left as my third PD array. Okay, cool. The stops are the same pretty much. So 24 handles or 25 handles. So 1 point difference. So definitely going to take the closer one, which is going to be this fair value gap. But no matter, it did not change the results of this trade. It was definitely successful. And you had those equal highs that were induced at lunch highs. So definitely a very, very good trade, a very clear trade. And as you guys know, I like to close my trade at 4, and I would not have had the opportunity. I did not personally take this trade. I was done after my morning trade, very happy with my results. But as we can see right here, I would have closed just before reaching it because it is 4 p.m. at the opening price of the 4 p.m. candle here, which is where I close my positions. If you missed this entry, you also had another opportunity right after. It did offer a lot more risk to reward. But the truth is, this entry is not a valid entry. Why? Because you should have been in this trade and holding. So the only way you were no longer in this trade is if you got broken even here. For example, this is an actual possibility, right? Consolidation at the entry, we broke above. But as I explained before, I need to close above the high before I can even consider doing that. In this case, we did not close above. So for me, this is the actual trade. But if you did miss it or you got broken even, you did have another entry opportunity that came just a few minutes later. And this is easily a 14-15R trade with that possible entry. Now, if we look, once again, am I going to hold this trade for 5R without taking profits? No. And how am I going to find my partial objectives? I'm going to use the range I'm looking to reverse, which in this case is going to be an intraday high of the lunch high. I'm going to look at the first premium and efficiency. In this case, it is still liquidity. And this is going to be my partial objective. And if we look at that partial objective, it offered 2.34R. So very, very good return on a partial there. I would not complain at all. And then you could have held on all the way to the lunch relative equal highs all the way up here and had a very successful PM session. So pretty straightforward in this case. Very simple day. led with multiple successful opportunities. And it's another one of those days where if you weren't in those trades, it would have been a very hard day because everything other than those moves was pretty much high resistance or consolidation. So you really didn't have to filter anything. You just had to enter the setups when they were offered, because if you hesitated and got stuck trying to trade continuations and so on, you would have gotten stopped out multiple times for lack of reason. Overall, pretty nice day. Nothing much to add to that regard. So we're going to call it a night here. I do see you typing, NJ, so I'm more than happy to answer your question. Would you like us to discuss Judas swings? I'm happy to cover that quickly because I am pretty pressed on time tonight. We will have another PA review tomorrow and the day after, so if you have additional questions, I'm happy to. But whenever I say a Judas swing, it's the same thing if I told you it is a time-specific manipulation. This is all I mean. So when I'm looking at news and I'm looking at news to do a fake move in the opposite direction of my bias. So if I'm expecting a bullish move and at the time of the news, I see a move lower and SMT forms, right? Like today we saw just the open low. I don't require it to be one candle. I don't require it to be 5 candles. It can take 15 seconds just as it can take 10 minutes, right? That's the truth about Judas swings, right? I don't know when it's done unless SMT tells me. And anyways, I'm waiting for my unicorn entry. So at that point, I have an already confirmed framework. But overall, I'm looking for time-based manipulation. So whenever I say I'm looking at a Judas swing at the open, I'm looking for a time-based manipulation at the opening price of, in this case, whenever I mention it, I'm oftentimes talking about the open of regular trading hours, the open of the New York session. So 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. What I'm looking for is, for example, here I was looking for bullish price action. So if I'm looking for bullish price action, I'm looking for fake move lower. I need it confirmed by SMT. And in this case, you did have it, but you just didn't have an entry. And at the point where it did give you an entry before 10 a.m., it invalidated the SMT, which meant that I can't trade before the news, right? Very simple rules. If I am to trade before a news event, I need a Judas swing with SMT. And basically, NJ, if you can't tell if it's a Judas swing or not, it's probably because it's not a clear Judas swing, which is not something you want to be using. Does that make a little sense? You have some examples of days that are less clear, because today was a little bit more of an easy day in the regards of Judas swings. But if you have a day that is less clear to you, I'd be happy to answer questions in chat if you just drop me a few charts. Awesome. Happy to. All right. Well, we're going to call it a night here. Always a pleasure, NJ. Thank you yourself. We'll see each other back tomorrow for another one of these price action reviews. Good luck trading tomorrow, guys. Bye.